In my second year of junior high, my parents got divorced. Mom walked out of the house carrying a suitcase, looked at me standing at the door watching, and said, "Your Uncle Chandler doesn't like children, I can't take you with me." After Mom left, Dad also took my younger brother and left. He didn't say a word, not even glance at me. After Dad left, I overheard the neighbors talking. "Simon is a poor soul. His wife went to a class reunion and just ran off with someone else. Ella has it tough too. She raised 2 kids all by herself while her husband was always away, with no one to lend a hand. Both parents are pitiable, except for me, the one they abandoned. I'm not pitiable at all." After they left, I hid alone in the house. As dusk fell, I cooked a bowl of noodles and ate them with soy sauce. The noodles were bland, mixed with my tears, adding a bitter taste. I didn't dare to complain, because there was only one bundle of noodles left at home. Halfway through eating the noodles, someone knocked on the door. A man in a black suit stood at the entrance and told me, "Kid, your father has already sold this house to us. You can't stay here anymore." I was at a loss. My parents didn't want me anymore, and this house was my only home. I couldn't lose it. I closed the door, shutting the person outside. The man started kicking the door, cursing loudly. The neighbors heard the noise and came to check. After seeing the sales contract in the man's hand, they began knocking on the door for him, saying, "Maya, open the door. This house was indeed sold by your father. It's not your family's anymore." I didn't believe it. Angrily, I opened the door, snatched the contract from the man's hand, threw it on the ground, stomped on it twice, and shouted at him, "This is my home, get out." The man slapped me across the face. My ears instantly started ringing, as the man was about to hit me again. The neighbors stopped him. He hurled many insults, but the words, "son of a bitch," cut me the deepest. I opened my mouth and bit his arm hard. The man kicked me, sending me to the ground, where he punched and kicked me. The neighbors couldn't stop him and quickly called the police. The police officers took us away. After investigating the cause and effect, the man was detained. Then, looking at the bruises all over my body, he asked, "Little one, do you remember your parents' phone number? Let's call them to take you home." I shook my head. "It's okay if you don't remember. Where do they work? And what are their names?" I raised my head, the clear slap mark on my face visible to him, and said, "Uncle, my parents are dead." Parents who don't want their children are no different from being dead. That's what I think. The police officer gave me a sympathetic look. After their investigation, they knew I was lying, but they also knew that neither of my parents wanted me anymore. They took me to the infirmary, cleaned my wounds, and through household registration records, found my grandfather who lived far in the north. The next morning, they arranged a special car to send me there. Grandpa's house was very far. The police officer's car drove for 6 hours before reaching the destination. In front of a single-story house, the police officer stopped and handed me over to an elderly man. He said to the old man, "Kevin, this is your granddaughter. Take good care of her." After dropping me off, the police officer left, leaving me and Grandpa staring at each other in silence. Only then did I timidly raise my head and glance at the old man standing before me. His face was lean and angular, with resolute eyes and deep wrinkles. A centipede-like scar ran across his right cheek, as sharp as a nail, making me flinch and take a step back in fear. But I knew, he was my grandpa, the only one who could take care of me. I mustered my courage, took a step forward, and called out ingratiatingly, "Grandpa." All brainless fools. Grandpa glared at me before turning to enter the house. The wooden door slammed shut with a thunderous noise, leaving me locked outside, utterly at a loss. That night, I slept in the doghouse. The big yellow dog probably knew I was unwanted. It never barked at me, but it didn't pay me much attention either, just lying quietly in a corner of the doghouse. I went over and hugged it, overjoyed, feeling like I finally had a companion and a place to shelter from the wind and rain. The tattered bedding in the doghouse reeked of a foul odor that filled my nostrils, making me sneeze several times in irritation. But it doesn't matter, as long as I could survive, even a doghouse was good enough. That night, I slept poorly while holding the dog, dreaming constantly. In my dreams, I returned to my old home. Ever since my younger brother was born, my parents often argued, and the subject was always about money. Mom complained that Dad was useless, no education, no skills, forced to work in the South, only coming home once a year, and sending just $500 a month, which was never enough for the 3 of us. Her most frequent line was, "How could I have been so blind to marry you from over 400 kilometers away? If I'd known better." I should have married my classmate. He's self-employed in the seafood business now, owns 2 houses, and look at you, good for nothing. Just a pathetic loser. Dad never argued back, staying silent each time, smoking one cigarette after another. After finishing, he'd slam the door and leave, no one knew where, leaving Mom alone at home to rage. After raging for so long, she stopped making a scene, even deleting Dad's contact info. Turning around, hearing my baby brother cry in his swaddle, she rushed to the kitchen, grabbed my ear as I was washing dishes, and shrieked, "It's all because of you. If not for having you, I'd have left long ago, raising you 2 burdens. I don't even have the right to die. I've had enough of this damned life." I was 6 that year. Hearing my mother's cries and scolding, I began to realize that I had done something wrong. It was all because of me that my mother was burdened by this family and lived unhappily every day. I felt that I shouldn't have come into this world. I started to become more sensible, learning to read Mom's expressions, starting to understand how to care for Mom. Whatever I can do, I'll take the initiative without waiting for Mom to say it. Washing dishes, doing laundry, sweeping the floor, and taking care of my younger brother. Mom won't let me go to school, and I don't dare to say no, so I obediently stay home to take care of my little brother. Now that I'm 13, I can do everything Mom can do. I thought that as long as I was sensible, as long as I was obedient, Mom would be happy, but she still left. Even the father I'd barely met a few times didn't want me anymore. I woke up to the sound of crying. By the time I woke, the sky was faintly bright. Not daring to sleep longer, just like at home, I quickly got up, brushed the dirt off my clothes, and went into the yard. Early autumn, the northern morning was chilly. I shivered, hunched my shoulders, and wandered around the yard, looking for something to do. Noticing the messy pile of firewood in the distance, I started chopping it. Perhaps the sound of chopping was too loud and disturbed my grandfather's sleep. He rushed out of the house, snatched the axe from my hands, slammed it into the ground, grabbed me by the collar, and threw me outside the gate. As he turned to leave, he spat out just one word, "Go," without crying or making a fuss. I leaned against the gate, rubbed my growling stomach, and followed the dirt road up the mountain. During these years while taking care of my younger brother at home, Mom often worked night shifts and came back late, so I frequently went hungry. I would carry my brother on my back to the hills behind the park to forage for wild fruits. I knew exactly which berries and plants were edible. I was lucky that day. I gathered a whole bag of wild jujubes and a big handful of wild garlic. With a handful of jujubes and garlic, I filled my stomach, then picked a large bundle of clover and carried it home on my shoulder. Grandpa probably didn't expect me to return. He was just about to leave with a shoulder pole to fetch water when he saw me carrying the clover. After a moment of stunned silence, he ignored me, passing by as if we were strangers, and walked straight away. Seeing the gate unlocked, I entered the yard on my own, tossed the alfalfa into the pig pen, fed some to the big yellow dog, patted its head, and then headed to the stove. I gathered a bundle of firewood that had been chopped in the morning, stuffed it into the stove, lit the fire to boil water, then tiptoed back into the house. Spotting some flour, I helped Grandpa knead the dough. I worked quickly, and by the time the dough was ready, Grandpa had returned. As soon as he entered, he saw me holding a wash basin and immediately scowled, shouting, "Why aren't you gone yet?" Knowing I was living under someone else's roof, I set down the basin, went to Grandpa, and knelt with a thud at his feet, crying uncontrollably, "Grandpa, please take me in. Mom and Dad don't want me anymore, but I want to grow up. When I'm older, I'll take care of you, support you in your old age. Please don't drive me away." "Okay." Grandpa, who had initially intended to push me away, suddenly loosened his grip and just cursed, "Just like your mother, both of you are ungrateful." After saying this, Grandpa went out to the yard. I happily got up from the ground, knowing Grandpa wouldn't chase me away anymore, and worked even harder, rolling dough, chopping vegetables. In no time, I had prepared a steaming bowl of green vegetable noodles. I placed the noodles in front of Grandpa, then turned to sweep the yard. Grandpa watched me bustling around like a spinning top, his gaze settling on the bowl of noodles before him. He scooped out half the noodles from his bowl and tossed them in front of me. "Here, dog food," he said. I knew this was food Grandpa gave me, his way of acknowledging my existence. Overjoyed, I ran over and ate every last bite. After the meal, I started washing dishes and clothes, doing every chore I could find. Noticing the water vat wasn't full, I went to fetch more water. Being small and skinny, I couldn't manage a shoulder pole, So I carried a small bucket instead, trip after trip. I made over a dozen journeys until the vat was finally full. I don't know if it was because of my diligence or the smile on my face that moved my grandpa, but that night, he pulled me out of the doghouse, saying, "Get back inside to sleep. If you catch a cold, we'll have to spend money on a doctor." That night, I slept on the heated brick bed, too happy to fall asleep, listening to my grandpa's snoring. I didn't find it annoying but instead felt an inexplicable sense of security. In the days that followed, I was like a little spinning top, constantly busy. Grandpa had 2 acres of land, and every day I carried a hoe, working tirelessly in the fields. I cleared every single weed, leaving not a single one extra. The villagers gradually became aware of my existence as a city kid, and the gossip started. Harsh words, sometimes even mentioning my mother's name. I also noticed how the villagers seemed to deliberately avoid Grandpa, as if he carried the plague. They disliked him. And they disliked me too. Some would even point at my head in front of me, calling me a bastard, something even a dog wouldn't want. Just like my ungrateful mother, I didn't care. Life is my own. I just wanted to live well. What others say won't take a piece of my flesh. Let them talk. I wished I could grow up faster, to no longer depend on others, to be able to take care of Grandpa. I'm busy every day, afraid that if I slack off, Grandpa might throw me out. One day, over a month later, Grandpa got up very early, saying he wanted to go to town for a walk and told me not to wait for him. I worked all day, and it was already dark, but Grandpa still hadn't returned. The food I left for him in the pot was reheated again and again, and I started to grow anxious. Would Grandpa not want me either? I didn't know anyone in the village, so I had no choice but to take a flashlight and go look for him myself. I walked along the asphalt road to the village entrance and stood beneath the stone marker, anxiously waiting for Grandpa to come home. Yet, no matter how long I waited, Grandpa never appeared. I grew worried and slowly began to cry. Did Grandpa not want me anymore? So he wouldn't even come home? I feel deeply guilty, thinking of myself as a curse, a burden to anyone who takes care of me. Just as I was consumed with anxiety, a staggering figure emerged from the shadows. Limping forward step by step with great difficulty, Grandpa, I recognized him instantly and sprinted towards him at full speed. Throwing myself into his arms, clutching his waist, I sobbed loudly like a child. "Grandpa, do you not want me either?" Grandpa had a smile on his face, his rough old hand wiping away my tears as he chuckled. "Even a dog wouldn't want you, but Grandpa still does." I knew he was teasing me on purpose, so I hugged his waist even tighter. "I don't care, I want Grandpa. I need Grandpa." All right, it's my bad luck to have to raise you," Grandpa said, pushing me away gently before taking my hand to walk home together. I noticed Grandpa seemed to limp a little and asked why, but he wouldn't tell me. When I crouched down to carry him on my back, he pushed me away, saying he was only 61 and not so old that he couldn't walk. The 1.5-kilometer path from the village entrance to home took a full 50 minutes as I supported my grandfather along the way. Once inside, I helped him sit down, removed his shoes, rolled up his pant legs, and washed his feet. When I rolled the pant legs up to his knees, I saw bruises covering them, dark, swollen, and puffy like steamed buns. "Grandpa, what happened to your legs?" Grandpa held my hand and said, "It's dark. I accidentally fell." After saying that, Grandpa took my hand with a mysterious look on his face. "Maya, I have something good to show you." He pulled out a folded piece of paper from his inner pocket, carefully unfolded it, and handed it to me. I took it and saw that it was a transfer certificate. I froze for a moment, overjoyed yet astonished. "I can go to school," Grandpa nodded with a smile. I jumped for joy, hugging Grandpa and laughing out loud. At that moment, the scars on his face didn't seem so frightening anymore, and I vaguely understood that Grandpa truly loved me. I was so excited I couldn't sleep all night, clutching the transfer certificate, afraid it might suddenly disappear. The next day, I got up at 3 in the morning, swept the yard clean, steamed a pot of buns for Grandpa, and filled the water vat bucket by bucket. I packed 6 buns, slung the cloth bag Grandpa had found for me over my shoulder, rolled up my bedding, took $20, and headed to school. Before leaving, Grandpa grabbed my hand and, for the first time, gave me a stern warning with sharp eyes. "Don't be like your mother, dropping out of school for some man. Study hard. If I find out you're not doing well in school, I'll break your damn legs." I hugged Grandpa. I said, "Grandpa, I want to study hard. I want to go to college. I want to buy a house, a home of my own. I will study hard." No one knows how envious I am when I pass by the school every day carrying my little brother. How much I long to go to school. Grandpa nodded and walked me to the village entrance. The junior high school in town allowed us to go home once a week with one day off each time, to catch up on the classes I had missed. I told Grandpa I would only come home every 2 weeks. Before leaving, I reminded Grandpa not to overwork himself and to save some chores for me to do when I returned. I went to school with great joy. For the past 2 years, my mom had me take a leave from school so I could stay home and take care of the kids while she worked, causing me to fall far behind in my studies. At school, I buried myself in books, cramming textbook knowledge, barely recognizing my classmates, and focusing solely on how to improve my grades. I attended classes during the day and helped in the cafeteria at night, chopping vegetables, washing dishes, and sweeping the floor. The cafeteria lady was kind-hearted and would give me leftover steamed buns and soup for free every day. With my stomach full and body warm, I worked even harder. Finally, 18 months later, during that high school entrance exam, I scored first in the entire town and got admitted to the city's top high school. When the results came out, the dean called me into his office. After closing the door, he told me something that left me utterly shocked. "Maya, your grades have surprised us. You should thank your grandfather. Back then, if he hadn't knelt at the school gate for an entire day, we wouldn't have dared to process your transfer paperwork. You also know that your grandfather is a murderer. At the time, we truly didn't dare to accept a child raised by him." I stood frozen in place. As if struck by lightning, all the joy of coming in first place vanished, and I stumbled home in a daze. I can't accept that Grandpa is a murderer, all the way to the doorstep. My mind was still in a daze, unable to connect that steady old man with the image of a murderer. I couldn't understand who he had killed or why he would do such a thing, but then again, he is my loving grandpa. For my sake, he knelt for an entire day. Without him, I wouldn't have achieved what I have today. I felt guilty for speculating about Grandpa. Taking a deep breath, I adjusted my mood, forced a smile, and walked into the house pretending nothing was wrong, ready to share the good news with Grandpa about scoring first place. However, upon entering, I found the main door tightly locked. The neighbor told me, "Your grandpa got into a fight with someone and was arrested again. Go find your mom quickly, or else he'll end up in jail once more." I immediately felt dizzy and nearly collapsed to the ground. It took me a while to calm down before I could stop crying and head to the town police station to find my grandpa. I didn't get to see my grandpa. A police officer received me instead. He told me, "Your grandpa is suspected of intentional assault. The specifics will depend on the victim's injuries." I couldn't believe it. Though my grandpa might seem tough, he would never harm anyone without reason, let alone beat someone up. "Officer, who did my grandpa hurt? No matter who it is, I'm going to beg them. As long as they don't report my grandfather, I'm willing to do anything." Chandler. I silently memorized the name and went to the city hospital, using the living expenses I had saved up. I bought some bananas and inquired in every department one by one, finally finding the person named Chandler in the orthopedics department. I walked in carrying bananas, looking at the 3 hospital beds inside, and stopped in front of the last one, because the name on the bed read, Chandler. I glanced at the man with a cast on his leg and timidly asked, "Excuse me, are you Uncle Chandler?" The man looked up, gave me a once-over, and smiled at first, but after seeing my face clearly, his expression immediately turned cold, and he said mockingly, "So you're the bastard even a dog wouldn't want." I don't know why he said that about me, but since I needed his help, I ignored his words and put down the banana. "Uncle Chandler, please, don't sue my grandpa. As long as you don't sue him, I'll do whatever you want me to do." Chandler sneered, "You little bastard. Do you even know who I am?" I looked at him, but I really couldn't remember. He stared at me and suddenly laughed. "Your mother ran away with me back then. I get it now." Took a step back, no longer called him uncle either. Seeing the wariness in my eyes, he immediately grew furious. "Didn't you want to beg me to spare your grandfather? If you kneel and admit you're a bastard, I might consider it." I grabbed the bananas on the table and turned to leave. I walked to the door of the ward and bumped into a woman. "Can't you watch where you're going, Maya?" I seemed to hear my mother's voice. Startled, I looked up and saw a sallow yet familiar face. Her complexion was sickly yellow, her whole body like a wilted banana, old and ugly. I was startled by her appearance. If it weren't for her voice, I wouldn't have recognized her. In the past, she loved dressing up, even when money was tight at home. She would scrape together every penny to buy cheap cosmetics from the wholesale market, but now, She wore no makeup, her face covered in wrinkles, as if she had aged 10 years. Why did you come here? Mom pulled me into the hallway, staring at me angrily as she asked. Over a year since we last met, I saw no trace of longing in her eyes. The word, Mom, stuck in my throat, rolling around, but I couldn't bring myself to say it, nor did I want to answer her question. She grew even angrier, shoving me. Cat got your tongue, can't even call me Mom, you're such a worthless piece of trash. Over the years, many have called me trash, and I've grown immune to it. It doesn't bother me anymore. I knew why I was there. Lifting my head, I looked at her face, both familiar and strange, and asked, Grandpa's been arrested. Can you save him? How to save him? He's got a terrible temper, stubborn as a mule, and resorts to violence at the slightest provocation. He even killed someone before. Mid-sentence, Mom suddenly stopped, pulled out a cigarette from her pocket, and lit it with practiced ease. In the flickering glow of the flame, her words turned into a scornful mutter. None of them give me a moment's peace. So damn annoying. They might as well all just drop dead. With that, she finished the cigarette in a few quick puffs, tossed the butt aside, and headed into the hospital room. I stood at the doorway of the hospital room, not leaving. The police officer said that to save Grandpa, we must seek the victim's forgiveness. I can't leave. That day, Mom kept going in and out of the ward. At first when she saw me, she would tell me to get lost, but later she treated me like air and ignored me completely. My eyes followed her figure moving back and forth until late at night, when a piercing scream rang out. Recognizing it was my mother's voice, I rushed into the ward immediately. In the hospital room, Chandler gripped the thermos like a hammer and struck my mother's face with it. My mother's head and face were drenched, scalding hot water pouring down from her scalp. Still steaming, Chandler yanked her hair, striking her while shouting, Are you fed up with taking care of me? Do you really think you're still the high school goddess, that I'd still revolve around you? Keep dreaming. You can't even cough up 100 grand, and you dare doze off. Don't forget. It was your damn father who beat me up like this. You fucking owe me for life. My mother sobbed and begged for mercy, apologizing over and over, admitting she was wrong. I watched her pained expression, feeling something churning in my heart. I rushed forward, pushed Chandler's hand away, pulled my mom back, and used my sleeve to wipe the water from her face. Seeing the bright red burns on her skin, I asked worriedly, Mom, are you okay? When my mom saw it was me, her brows furrowed, and a cold glint surfaced in her eyes as she pushed me away. Get lost. It's all because of you, you wretched thing. You're the one who caused this. I felt wronged and thought she was being unreasonable. Ignoring her, I left the hospital room. Whatever, her getting beaten up had nothing to do with me. Crouching at the corner of the hallway, I lowered my head, hugged my knees, and began to think of Grandpa. I wondered how Grandpa was doing, whether he had eaten. That night, I slept on the bench in the hospital corridor. The next morning, I saw my mother returning with food, her face wrapped in several layers of gauze. I knew she got burned last night, but I didn't expect it to be this serious. As she passed by me, she didn't even glance my way and went straight into the ward. I'm not sad anymore. Having Grandpa's care is enough for me. I waited outside the hospital room for 3 full days. On the third night, I overheard the nurses discussing Chandler, saying they had seen him hit his wife. More than once, they mentioned noticing scars on his wife's body and suspected he had a tendency toward domestic violence, debating whether they should report it to the police. The speakers meant no harm, but I took it all in. Suddenly, I had a way to save Grandpa. The next morning, I sweet-talked a nurse into lending me her phone. Seizing the moment when Mom went out to get food, I slipped back into the hospital room. Chandler saw me and just gave me a blank sidelong glance. Ignoring me, I looked at him, trying my best to speak in an adult tone as I negotiated. Hitting my mom is illegal. I can report you and have you sent to jail. Hearing this, Chandler sneered, sat up, and tried to grab my collar while reaching out, saying, You little bastard. I wasn't stupid enough to just stand there and let him hit me. I took a step back. After all, his leg was broken, so he couldn't get out of bed. I stood firmly by his bedside, raised my phone, and threatened, I have proof. You scalded my mom's face with boiling water and cut her with a knife. I'll hand all this evidence over to the police. Once they see it and have my mom's injuries examined, you'll be arrested. Chandler's face darkened with rage, his teeth clenched. Your mom told you this. I stayed silent. That bitch dares to screw me over. Just wait. I'll kill her. How things are between him and my mom, I don't want to care. I just want to save my grandpa. I didn't move, staring at him intently, though terrified to death inside. I forced myself not to tremble. You write a letter of understanding, don't let my grandpa go to jail, and I won't report you, I'll delete the evidence. Chandler didn't believe it. He couldn't possibly trust a kid, nor would I let myself get hurt for nothing. I knew what he wanted. These past few days at the hospital room door, I heard him arguing with my mom, always bringing up money. It was because he pressured my mom to ask Grandpa for money that Grandpa hit him. I took a slip of paper from my pocket and handed it over. I had borrowed it from the nurse's station earlier. It read, I, Maya, voluntarily agree to compensate Chandler for all medical expenses and other costs after I come of age. Beneath the note were my name and a red fingerprint. A flicker of surprise crossed Chandler's eyes as he glanced up at me, then he sneered. Seemingly unconvinced that a child could have done such a thing, I had already prepared for this moment before coming, unfazed by his disbelief. I'm 15 years old now, and in 3 more years, I'll be an adult. Let my grandpa go, and when I grow up, I can work and earn money to pay you back. But if you insist on sending my grandpa to jail, I'll hand over the evidence of your domestic violence to the police, and you can join my grandpa in jail. Perhaps it was the unusual calmness in my voice for someone my age, or maybe my unwavering determination to report him that struck a chord. Chandler's eyes widened in shock for a moment before he suddenly laughed. He opened a drawer, pulled out a pen, and added a line, plus $100,000 for lost wages and nutritional expenses. After writing it, he tapped the note and said, You little brat, remember this. You owe me $100,000. Chandler's letter of understanding was delivered to the police station in the afternoon. Grandpa was released. In the lobby, I clung tightly to Grandpa's waist, crying uncontrollably. Grandpa patted my hair and muttered, Silly child, what are you crying for? Grandpa's just fine. Grandpa knew I had saved him and that I went to see Chandler, but he wasn't aware of the $100,000 I owe you. He sighed and said, From now on, don't go looking for those 2 scoundrels again. I didn't like them either, so I nodded. As long as they didn't bother me and Grandpa, I never wanted to see them again in my life. I held Grandpa's hand, and we walked home together. On the way, to cheer him up, I told him the news that I had ranked first in the entire town. After hearing it, Grandpa didn't praise me. He just scowled and told me not to get arrogant. When I got home, I hesitated about whether to tell my grandfather about my mother being beaten. After all, she was his daughter. But as soon as I started to bring it up, my grandfather said, Even if she dies out there, it's none of my concern. You focus on your studies and don't worry about anything else. After that, my grandfather wouldn't let me do anything. He kept urging me to study every day, saying high school was very demanding and I couldn't afford to fall behind from the start. I began to take things seriously. No one in the family mentioned my mother anymore, as if she had truly died. Even regarding Chandler's matter, Grandpa never brought it up. Several times I wanted to ask about the incident where Grandpa killed someone and went to prison, who he killed, what exactly the other person had done to provoke Grandpa's fury, but seeing Grandpa's increasingly aged face, I held back. Gradually, my curiosity faded. Whoever it was, I know for sure that my grandpa is a good man. The person who was killed must have deserved it. After Grandpa was safe, I returned to school. During the 3 years of high school, I lived on campus. Unlike middle school, I no longer had time to help in the kitchen at night. To make ends meet, I worked part-time at an internet cafe on weekends. Grandpa had already worked hard enough for my tuition, and I didn't want to burden him further. The part-time job paid $100 a day, though it wasn't much. It was enough for steamed buns and porridge every day. I studied while working part-time, maintaining my grades steadily in the top 3 of my grade, but I knew it wasn't enough. I had to be first. I started pushing myself even harder, taking advantage of the quieter nights at the internet cafe to memorize vocabulary, working so hard. Are you aiming for Tsinghua? A boy with a head full of bleached hair leaned against the counter, watching me study in the internet cafe. His languid and disdainful eyes brimming with indifference, I glanced at him indifferently and asked, All-nighter or prepaid card? He smiled and asked, What if I don't have an ID? I shook my head and shoved the sign on the table in front of him, Minors prohibited. He pointed at me, Aren't you a minor too? I didn't respond to him. If I had a choice, I wouldn't want to come to a place like this. But I need to survive. Only by surviving can there be hope. Hope to get into a good university. Hope to take care of my grandfather. Hope to repay Chandler's $100,000. I went back to memorizing vocabulary, ignoring his presence. He glanced at me helplessly a few times, muttered, "Stubborn," and then left the internet cafe. In the days that followed, he would come every weekend, still constantly trying to talk to me. I would stop him at the counter. "No ID, no entry. I don't care about anything else. As the person sitting at this counter, I'll do my job diligently and enforce the rules as stated. No entry means no entry. I can't afford to take responsibility if something goes wrong." Every time he sees me, I'm reading a book, either memorizing vocabulary or reviewing humanities knowledge points. Leaning on the bar counter, he stretched his neck to look at my book. "Working so hard. Why aren't you studying at school? Is your family poor?" "My dad has money. How about I sponsor you?" I looked at him, my face darkening, my voice unpleasant. "No need. I don't believe there's any such thing as unconditional kindness in this world. Even my own parents don't care about me, so why would a stranger want to support me? I don't believe it, and I don't want to believe it. I'd rather endure my own hardships, moving forward step by step, though tiring. It feels solid." Senior year of high school, school classes became increasingly intense. The original one-day weekly break was changed to a half-monthly rest. I no longer had time to work part-time at the internet cafe. I quit my part-time job, planning to devote myself entirely to studying. Over the past 2 years, the part-time job didn't earn much, but I managed to save $100 each month. The money I've saved is enough to support my senior year of high school. The senior year of high school is crucial. Not a single minute or second should be wasted. As I was looking down at my textbook, the homeroom teacher brought in a new student. She introduced to all the classmates, "This is Tom, a new transfer student from No. 7 high school. Tom, you can sit next to Maya." Hearing the homeroom teacher call my name, I finally looked up. I was somewhat surprised when I saw the boy's appearance. "Nice to see you again," Tom said as he sat down beside me, smiling brightly. His yellow-dyed hair was now back to black, looking much more pleasing to the eye, just like when I first saw him at the internet cafe, still with that punchable grin. I ignored him and kept my head down, focused on studying. My goal was clear: Tsinghua University. Nothing and no one was going to distract me. In the days that followed, Tom kept pestering me with all sorts of questions, sometimes even during class. It drove me up the wall, so I treated him like air and didn't respond. Not getting any response from me, he just chuckled and muttered a few words before lying down on the desk to sleep. When the class ended, he stood up as if nothing had happened. Didn't even carry his backpack, and left. When leaving, he would say goodbye to me. "See you tomorrow, little Tsinghua." As time passed, classmates started gossiping, spreading rumors that we were dating. The homeroom teacher, aware of my family situation, called me into the office and said earnestly, "Maya, you've always been a well-behaved child. Don't get involved in puppy love." I told the teacher, "Teacher, I didn't do it." "If you didn't, why would Tom only talk to you? It takes two to tango. Go back and reflect on your actions. If there's any more gossip, I'll have to call your parents." I left the teacher's office and returned to the classroom. I couldn't let my parents be called. My grandpa is old, and I didn't want him to worry about me. I sat down, burying my head in my book, not wanting to think about anything, and continued studying. "Maya, what's wrong? You seem upset. Who bullied you? Tell me." Can you just stop talking to me?" My long-suppressed anger suddenly exploded like a balloon, and I shouted at Tom. He froze for a moment, looking at me in surprise. Seeing my reddened eyes, his expression shifted from shock to indifference. "It's just a few idle words, no big deal." He's nothing, but to me, it's deadly. I wanted to change seats, but these past few years, all I've done is study. My classmates think I'm pretentious, that there's something wrong with my head, and they don't like me. No one is willing to switch with me. I can only hide, pretending to be deaf and mute. I thought if I endured for one more year, I could get through it. Little did I expect that during a PE class, I fainted due to exhaustion. It was Tom who carried me to the infirmary and took care of me until I regained consciousness. From then on, rumors spread like wildfire in the class, claiming that Tom and I were dating. The homeroom teacher called my grandfather. Grandpa received the call and rushed over that very afternoon. He bowed deeply to the teacher, repeatedly apologizing and promising to discipline the child properly. The teacher lectured me briefly, earnestly advising, "With your grades, if you work hard and avoid those frivolous distractions, you can definitely get into a prestigious university. Don't stray down the wrong path. You'll regret it with nowhere to turn." I lowered my head and murmured my agreement. After leaving the teacher's office, Grandpa and I walked out of the school one after the other. Grandpa didn't say a word the whole way, watching his hunched back. I began to feel scared. 50 meters beyond the school gate, Grandpa suddenly stopped. He turned to look at me, his gaze unfamiliar and icy. The scar running across his face felt like a frozen cellar at that moment, sending chills down my spine. Grandpa, I really haven't been dating anyone, I hurriedly explained. The anger Grandpa had suppressed the entire way erupted instantly, pointing at my head. His voice trembled with a cold fury. You damn bastard, just like your mother. Shameless trash. Are men really that good? Can't you live without dating? Under the withering fallen leaves, Grandpa's face was contorted with rage, his body shaking with anger. His eyes seemed to hold a blazing fire directed straight at me. His voice was sharp, roaring out, making my heart tremble along with it. I didn't, Grandpa, I really didn't, I cried, somewhat afraid that Grandpa might abandon me, but Grandpa wouldn't listen at all, raising his hand to slap my face. I instinctively closed my eyes, waiting for Grandpa's punishment. However, the crisp sound of a slap rang out, yet I felt no pain. When I opened my eyes, I saw the mark of a palm on Grandpa's face. One wasn't enough. He raised his other hand and struck the other half of his own face. Grandpa, I clung to Grandpa's arm, crying like a fountain, refusing to let go no matter what. Hit me, Grandpa, I was wrong, I'll never do it again. I'd rather have Grandpa's slap land on my face. Grandpa pushed me away, turned his back to wipe his tears, pointed at me, wanting to say something. His lips quivered a few times, but in the end, he said nothing and stormed off angrily. After Grandpa left, I returned to the classroom in a daze. Maya, why are you crying? I just went to talk to the teacher. We're just classmates. Don't listen to their nonsense. A clear conscience laughs at false accusations. If you don't care, nothing will happen. I beg you, Tom, can you please stay away from me? You have a mom and dad, and even if your grades aren't good, someone still loves you. But I'm different. If I don't get into college, my grandpa will be so angry he might die. I looked at him, crying and pleading. Tom was clearly taken aback by my words, his expression turning startled for a moment before returning to normal. He said, "That's a bit exaggerated, isn't it?" I didn't argue. My life is different from others, but who would believe it? They didn't know that the parental nagging they despised in daily life was, for me, the most distant yet most desired thing, and Grandpa was the only light in my life. I couldn't lose him too. From that day on, I became mute. Not even speaking a word. Speaking more might lead to mistakes, so staying silent should be fine. Seeing me like this, Tom didn't dare to approach me again. He volunteered to move to the very last row. The seat beside me was empty once more, just like my heart, hollow and void, with only studying able to fill it. I started pushing myself to the limit again. In the latter half of my senior year, my grades stabilized at the top of the class. During the college entrance exams, I walked into the examination hall brimming with confidence, as if stepping into a bright future. When it came time to fill out my college applications, I only wrote one choice, Tsinghua University. If it's not Tsinghua, I'd rather start over. After filling out my college application, I left the school. As I walked out the gate, I ran into Tom. He was leaning against the railing by the school entrance, seemingly waiting for me on purpose. When he saw me approaching, he took a couple of steps forward and handed me a blue notebook. "Maya, you'll get into Tsinghua." "Thanks," I said, walking past him without taking what he was holding out. He watched my retreating figure until I disappeared into the vast sea of people, then finally withdrew his gaze, his eyes now filled with loneliness. I returned home and continued to live with my grandfather, relying on each other for survival. 18 days later, I received a package. It was Tsinghua University's admission letter. Grandpa held the admission letter, stroking it over and over, then buried his head in his hands and wept bitterly on the ground. I didn't understand why Grandpa was so heartbroken. Getting into college was supposed to be a good thing, but hearing his heart-wrenching sobs, I felt a pang in my chest too, thinking about how neither my mom nor my dad wanted me. I crouched down, hugged Grandpa, and cried with him. That night, we cried for a long time. Grandpa drank a little, then cried himself to sleep. Early the next morning, while I was working in the yard as usual, Grandpa called me into the house. Grandpa took my hand and sat me down, placing a thick brown envelope in my palm. I looked at Grandpa in confusion, then opened it to find a thick stack of money inside, all in red bills. "Grandpa, where did all this money come from?" I asked, shocked. Grandpa sat up a bit. watching the birds flapping their wings and flying away outside the window. And said to me, over the past few years, I've done some odd jobs and saved up $30,000. It's not much, but keep it for your college expenses. I pushed it back. I don't want it, Grandpa. Keep the money for yourself. I'm 18 now. I can do part-time jobs, apply for student loans. I can support myself. Grandpa got a little angry and shoved the money directly into my hand. Why are you so stubborn? Just take it when I tell you to. You're just a kid. How are you supposed to support yourself? My eyes, uncooperatively, welled up with tears, holding the money in my hand. My heart felt heavy. Grandpa, already advanced in years, still had to do hard labor for my tuition. The more I thought about it, the sadder I became, and I burst into tears. Clinging to Grandpa and refusing to let go, I couldn't tell if Grandpa was crying too, but his voice grew hoarse. He stroked my hair and spoke softly, with a hint of apology. Maya, all these years, it's been Grandpa who let you down. I raised my head and met my grandfather's cloudy eyes, not understanding why he would say such a thing. Grandpa, you've been so good to me. If it weren't for my grandfather, at the age of 13, I might have died on the streets, or perhaps been abducted and sold. It was my grandfather who gave me a home, who gave me warm love, and firmly told me that I must study hard to have hope for the future. Grandpa shook his head, tears streaming down his cheeks in large drops. Unstoppable. It's Grandpa. Grandpa hurt you. From now on, Grandpa won't call you little dog anymore. You're a good kid, not like your mom, Grandpa said while stroking my hair, his eyes filled with remorse. Grandpa, I like it when you call me that. I don't mind. I knew there was a type of bun called gubuli, literally, dogs ignore it. When Grandpa called me little dog, it wasn't meant as an insult. It was different from when others called me a bastard. Hearing this, Grandpa buried his face in his knees and sobbed aloud. In the 5 years I'd lived with Grandpa, I'd never seen him like this. Terrified, I grabbed his calloused hand and cried, Grandpa, what's wrong? Did something happen? Why was he apologizing to me over and over? Crying so bitterly, I knew Grandpa had resented my mother and initially disliked me too. That's why he called me little bastard, but I truly didn't mind. I could tell who loved me and who didn't. Grandpa cried for a while, then wiped his face as if nothing had happened. Without offering an explanation, he said, It's nothing. Grandpa is just getting old and afraid he might never see you again. I want to apologize to you. Don't hold it against me. I shook my head. Grandpa, I don't blame you. Really, wait for me. Once I graduate from college, I'll take you with me. Grandpa gave a bitter smile but said nothing. He just held my hand in his, unwilling to let go. The day after my student loan was approved, I left. I want to go and report earlier, and after settling in, I want to find a part-time job as soon as possible. I need to earn money, for school, to repay the money I owe Chandler, and to bring my grandfather to the city. I found 2 part-time jobs. One at a milk tea shop and the other as a construction helper. I chose the second one. The construction helper job pays daily, and the wages are higher. I can earn $300 a day. Before school starts, I can work hard for a few days. I carry cement and paint every day, busy and bustling, yet I don't feel tired at all. On the contrary, I feel full of energy. But before I could work for even 8 days, I received a call from the village chief, who told me that something had happened to my grandfather. He wouldn't say exactly what had happened, only urging me to go back and see as soon as possible. I took leave and rushed back in a frantic hurry. All the way, my heart was filled with unease, wishing the train would go faster and faster. I thought Grandpa was just sick or had accidentally hurt himself while working, but I never expected that as I turned into the alley, I would see the funeral banner hanging at the door. A terrible premonition swept over me from head to toe, and my legs gave way, sending me crashing to the ground. Maya, why did you only come back now? Your grandfather, he passed away last night. The village chief told me everything when he saw me. My head started buzzing, as if some medicine had exploded in my ears, making me hear nothing. I got up from the ground and walked home with heavy steps, one after another, until I reached the main hall. I saw a pitch-black coffin. Inside the coffin lay my grandfather. I lifted the white cloth covering his face and saw Grandpa clearly. Grandpa's face was pale with a bluish tint, his stubble stained with blood. My voice trembled as I touched his face, using my sleeve to wipe away the bloodstains, but the blood had dried, and no matter how much I wiped, it wouldn't come off. Wake up, Grandpa, please wake up, get up, it's me, Maya. The neighbors around started pulling me away. After being pulled away, I lunged forward like a madman, clinging to the coffin. No matter how hard the neighbors tried to drag me, I refused to move, wailing in overwhelming grief. Grandpa, you promised to wait until I earned money so we could go to the city together. You broke your promise. I lay beside the coffin, crying my heart out. Even the neighbors who usually disliked me had reddened eyes and couldn't help but shed tears. I grabbed the hand of an elderly woman and asked her why my grandfather, who had been perfectly fine, had suddenly passed away. The woman shook her head, hesitating to speak. You'd better ask your mother. I didn't go to ask her. I knelt in the mourning hall for 5 days. I heard some gossip and roughly understood what had happened. On the morning of my grandfather's funeral, my mother came. She was dressed in mourning clothes and knelt on the cushion in front of the coffin. After kowtowing 3 times, she slapped the coffin lid, crying and complaining. You've made my life so miserable, Dad. You're gone and free. But what about me? Did you ever think of me? With Chandler dead, what am I supposed to do? Didn't you say you didn't want this daughter anymore? Why did you go after Chandler? You deliberately pushed him to act. You ruined him, and you ruined yourself too. I suddenly looked up at her, my eyes red. In that moment, I understood the cause of Grandpa's death. I stood up and knelt before my mother, before she could react. I tore off the hemp garment she was wearing, grabbed her arm, and threw her out of the mourning hall. I thought she wasn't worthy of seeing Grandpa off. I had grown up, taller and stronger, and throwing my mother out was more than enough for me. What are you doing, you bastard? I'm your mother. Get out. My grandpa doesn't want to see you. I gripped the doorframe, pushing her away. I hated her. If it weren't for her, Grandpa wouldn't have gone to find Chandler, and he wouldn't have died. Hearing my words, my mother's anger flared up instantly. She came up to me and, without a word, slapped me across the face. The crisp sound of a slap rang out, startling all the neighbors present. As for me, I remained completely calm. She's my mother, considering she gave birth to me. I'll treat this slap as repayment for that debt. Are you done? If so, get out, I said before turning and walking back into the mourning hall. Yet, the moment I turned around, she started shouting behind me. Do you think I wanted to come back? He killed my first man, and now he picked a fight with Chandler, deliberately letting Chandler kill him. Now the Cheen family blames me. He's ruining me. I froze in place. Hearing this, I turned back, my face cold, and strode quickly to my mother. I looked at her, my eyes devoid of any warmth. I pointed at her face, listing her mistakes one by one. In high school, you had an early romance with a delinquent. For him, you dropped out of school and got into fights. Grandma was so angry she had a heart attack and died. Grandpa went to find you, begging you to go back to school, trying to bring you home. But what did you do? You had that delinquent teach Grandpa a lesson. That bastard waved a knife in Grandpa's face, and in self-defense, Grandpa accidentally killed him. Grandpa was sentenced to 15 years, later reduced by 2 for good behavior. But you never cared, never visited him even once. You married some random coworker, had 2 kids, but you weren't satisfied with your husband's low income and lack of ambition, so you had an affair with Chandler, who pursued you back in high school. You thought marrying Chandler would give you a good life. But you never imagined that Chandler married you just to humiliate you for rejecting his advances. His 2 houses were also lies. He not only didn't care about you but also enjoyed beating you. You were often covered in bruises, too ashamed to even whimper. It was Grandpa who couldn't stand it anymore, fearing you'd be beaten to death. So he risked everything to confront Chandler and fight him, just to protect you. You keep saying Grandpa ruined your life, from that troublemaker, to my dad, to Chandler now. You've always believed Grandpa interfered and caused all your misfortunes, but have you ever considered that you're the root of the problem? Instead of reflecting on your mistakes, you exploit Grandpa's love for you and blame him endlessly. Is your life a life, and Grandpa's life isn't? He was afraid you'd go astray, accidentally kill someone, waste 13 years in prison, and after getting out, he took care of your child for 5 more years, and now, because you were abused by Chandler, he stood up for you and lost his own life. Everything Grandpa did was because he loved you, because you're his daughter, and you've never reflected on your own mistakes, just kept blaming Grandpa. Having a daughter like you is the biggest mistake of Grandpa's life. After saying all this, I turned and went back inside, standing by the sealed coffin, crying as I spoke to Grandpa. Grandpa, why were you so foolish? You did so much for her. Yet you refused to say anything. Grandpa would never answer me again. Hearing these words, My mother didn't scold me anymore, nor did she scold Grandpa. The neighbor said my mom ran away crying. Whatever, I don't want to hear anything about her. After burying Grandpa, I stayed at home for 2 days before returning to school. The harder I worked, the more I devoted myself to studying and part-time jobs. Only seeing my grandfather in my dreams, waking up in the morning, I wiped my moist, teary eyes and continued with another day of struggle. My teacher noticed something was off with me and urged me to join a club. I chose the sign language club. I don't want to speak. Silence suits me best. I just didn't expect to run into someone I knew there. Maya, finally found you. It's been a week since school started, and I couldn't locate you anywhere. Tom's eyes lit up as he spotted me, walking toward me. I merely gave him a faint glance, nodded slightly, then ignored him and continued learning sign language with my senior. He didn't get annoyed either, just followed behind me, keeping Maya company. His mouth was never idle. During breaks, he'd always come up to me. Maya, I only went to Tsinghua with my Olympiad gold medal because of you. Why aren't you saying anything? No one here would gossip about us. Are you afraid your grandpa will beat you again? Let me tell you, in our family, no one will beat me anymore. My grandpa is gone. My voice was cold and detached. After saying that, I turned and walked away. Tom stood there stunned, the smile slowly fading from his face, replaced by sympathy as he hurried after me to apologize. I never needed sympathy. 3 months after joining the sign language club, the group organized a warmth-giving activity. I went with my fellow club members to a school for the deaf and mute. There, I met many innocent and lively children, their faces beaming with smiles, their fingers nimble as they expressed their heartfelt thoughts. Looking at them, my heart suddenly settled, becoming calm. I listened to their wishes, tutored them with their studies, played games with them, and seeing their innocent and carefree demeanor, a long unseen smile appeared on my face. After returning, I signed up to be a long-term volunteer. I adore those children. Being with them makes me feel relaxed and happy. Tom quickly followed suit and also signed up. After completing the registration, he suddenly stopped me. Maya, I have something to tell you. I wasn't interested in listening. Sorry, I have to get back to work. He chased after me, his voice urgent. I know your childhood wasn't happy, and you didn't have loving parents, but I had all of that. I can share my happiness with you. Maya, I like you. Give me a chance to stay by your side and bring you joy, okay? My heartbeat suddenly skipped a beat, and I began to feel nervous all over. From childhood to adulthood, this was the first time I'd ever heard someone say they liked me, but I was very clear-headed. I knew what I wanted and always remembered what Grandpa had told me. At the same time, deep down, I felt that Tom and I were from different worlds. Someone like me didn't deserve a good life. My voice was calm as I refused him. I don't need it. I turned and walked away, disappearing into the vast crowd. Tom stood there, watching me leave. He wasn't discouraged but instead cheered himself on. Tom, you can do this. You're making progress. Keep going. Over the weekend, the contractor who was helping me with renovations took on a new job, moving drinks in a warehouse for $500 a day. I went along. The warehouse was huge, with plenty of beverages. Gritting my teeth, I lifted the drinks onto my shoulder and carried them out box by box. My shoulder skin got scraped, but I didn't mind. A little iodine at night would fix it. By noon, the foreman told me to take a break. I had just dusted off my clothes and was about to grab a lunchbox when a loud rumble came from the warehouse across the way. It sounded like something had collapsed. Emergency. The stack of wine bottles fell and trapped someone underneath. Hurry. After that urgent shout, everyone eating immediately put down their meal boxes and rushed to the other side. I went along too. We're all working away from home. Life isn't easy for anyone. If someone falls, a whole family goes hungry. Entering the warehouse across the way, the strong scent of alcohol hit me. The floor was covered in shattered glass, and a man lay collapsed inside. It wasn't clear where he was injured, but blood was gushing out from his neck. Simon, it's Simon, help him quickly. Hearing the name Simon, both familiar and strange, I was completely stunned, frozen in place. It wasn't until a blood-covered person was carried out of the warehouse that I could make out his features through his blood-stained face. He had aged, with more wrinkles, yet I recognized him at a glance. That's my dad, Dad, I screamed in shock. Along with the arriving ambulance, I accompanied my dad to the hospital, on the critical condition notice. The doctor asked a family member to sign, after hesitating for a moment. I signed my name. 5 years without seeing each other, to meet again. It turned out like this. Although I don't feel much about fatherly love, after all, he's my dad. At this moment of uncertain life or death, I'm very worried about him. I paid his hospital bill, clenched my fists, feeling extremely anxious. With tears blurring my vision, a doctor came out, and I begged him to save my dad. Now, I only have my dad left. The patient has lost too much blood and needs a transfusion. The blood from the blood bank is on its way, but it will take another half an hour. I can't wait. I can't let my dad wait. Take mine, doctor. I'm his daughter. Use my blood. I extended my arm, wanting to save my father. The doctor glanced at me, seemingly concerned. I'm an adult, and I'm perfectly healthy. Please take mine, doctor. I pleaded through tears. The doctor nodded in agreement. I followed the nurse to have my blood drawn. However, 5 minutes later, the nurse delivered news I couldn't accept. Maya, you're blood type A, and Simon is type O. It's not compatible. I was shocked and immediately thought the nurse was mistaken. That can't be. Please check again, nurse. How could my dad possibly be type O? Maybe there was an error in the test. My mother has type O blood. I know that, when she was giving birth to my younger brother and had a difficult delivery. I heard the nurse mention it during the blood transfusion. There's no mistake. We'll have to wait for the blood from the blood bank, the nurse said before turning and walking away. As for me, standing in the hallway, I was completely stunned. At that moment, I began to question my own identity. Who am I really? Could it be that I'm not my parents' child? With this thought, I suddenly understood. No wonder they've always treated me poorly. No wonder my mom always calls me a little bastard. And my dad never likes coming home. Turns out, I was adopted. Suddenly, I felt relieved. Since they're not my biological parents, it's not really wrong for them not to raise me. I sat in the hallway all afternoon. In the evening, Simon woke up. He had lost a lot of blood, with a deep cut on his chest, but he was finally saved. I bought some porridge and brought it to his hospital room. Have something to eat, the nurse said. For the next 2 days, you can only have liquids. I set up the small table and placed the porridge in front of him. He glanced at me sideways. His eyes filled with suspicion and indifference. I already knew the reason, so I wasn't upset anymore and pretended not to notice. I've called him dad for over a decade. Taking care of him for a few days is nothing. Get out. His voice was icy, laced with impatience. I didn't leave, just reminded him. Harry is still in middle school. You can't get out of bed for 3 days. Are you sure you want to kick me out? Harry is my younger brother. I raised him. And he's also the most beloved child in the family. At the mention of his younger brother, he fell silent, lowering his head and obediently began to eat his porridge. At night, I slept on a bench in the hallway, wrapped in my work clothes from the day, making do for the night. The next day, some co-workers came to visit him. Upon learning I was his daughter, they all praised me for my filial piety, saying that when they heard about his accident, I cried my eyes out. Simon looked at me without speaking, his eyes seeming to soften a little. I stayed at the hospital for 3 days. On the 3rd day, after the doctor agreed that Simon could get out of bed, I said goodbye to him. I'm leaving. I've paid $5,000 for your hospital fees. The meal order form for the hospital cafeteria is in the drawer. Call them yourself. With that, I prepared to leave. Maya, he called out to me. I turned back to look at him. This man, I had always believed, was my father. Although he never cared for me, and I never knew the taste of a father's love, for all these years, he had occupied the place of a father in my heart. But now, suddenly realizing he isn't, I don't quite know how to interact with him. He seems to notice the distance in my eyes, lowers his gaze, and says, "There's something you definitely don't know. I know, I'm not your biological child." I try to appear completely indifferent. His eyes suddenly widen. "No, you are your mother's biological child." I didn't quite understand and jokingly asked, "You mean she cheated on you?" Other than that, I couldn't think of any other possibility. Simon waved his hand and told me a story. During your mom's senior year of high school, she was a top student. Some classmates were jealous of her and hired a bunch of thugs to bully her. One of them, seeing how pretty your mom was, ended up rescuing her. Not long after, she ran off with that thug and quietly dropped out of school. When your grandfather found out, she was already pregnant. Over 3 months along, your grandmother had a heart attack from the shock and passed away in anger. Your grandfather went to the thug's house and forced your mother to come home and break up with him. Your mother refused outright and insisted on marrying him. Enraged, your grandfather slapped her, and the thug grabbed a machete from the house and slashed your grandfather across the face. In the struggle, Your grandfather accidentally killed him and was sent to prison. I had just returned from working out of town when I met her. She didn't ask for a dowry and was willing to marry me. It wasn't until after I brought her home that I found out she was already carrying a child. Hearing this, I was completely stunned. Blood rushed to my head in an instant. My mind a chaotic mess as I stared fixedly at Simon. I get it now. I was the child in my mother's womb. No wonder my father never liked coming home all these years. No wonder everyone treated me with disdain. No wonder Grandpa hated me so much at first. No wonder Grandpa suddenly apologized to me later, saying he was sorry. No wonder everyone called me a bastard, a mutt, a mongrel. So this is how I came to be. I don't know how I left the hospital. When I returned to school, my mind was still in a daze. The sky was completely dark by the time I reached the dormitory building, my whole body trembling. Maya. You're finally back. Where have you been these past few days? Tom stood at the foot of the dormitory building, saw me, and hurried over. I looked at his radiant face, thinking about my own detestable, rat-like origins, and suddenly laughed, a laugh both shrill and agonizing. I tugged at Tom's sleeve, as if drunk, and told him, "Do you know, I'm a bastard. I'm worse than a dog. Not even a dog would want me. I shouldn't have been born at all." Tom looked at me, somewhat at a loss. "What's wrong with you? What happened?" "Maya, don't scare me like this. I'm a piece of trash. I shouldn't have been born. I didn't ask her to give birth to me. Why does she have to treat me like this?" I shouted and roared, then suddenly burst into tears. It was the first time Tom had ever seen me like this. He always thought I was a quiet, well-behaved, and introverted person, doing nothing but studying. Now, seeing me in such a frenzy, he didn't know what to do. Feeling both heartbroken and sad, he held me tightly, continuously stroking my hair. Feeling my trembling body, he took off his own clothes and draped them over me. He didn't ask what had happened, nor did he say anything. He just held me quietly, holding me until I gradually stopped crying. The next morning, I woke up with eyes swollen like peaches. I carried on with my usual 3-point routine as if nothing had happened. Study, cafeteria, part-time job. Tom stayed by my side the whole time. He wasn't as chatty as before, but followed me around like Maya, tailing me in whatever I did. I told him to leave, but he just smiled and refused, continuing to follow me. Since I couldn't control him, I stopped trying. Then one day, more than half a month later, Tom suddenly didn't show up. Having grown accustomed to his presence, I felt somewhat unsettled. However, 2 days later, I quickly adjusted. My beloved grandfather has passed away, and there is no one left in this world that I care about. Study and work are my everything. Yet, to my surprise, a week later, Tom appeared before me again. With him appeared a girl. The girl playfully slapped his arm, and the two of them smiled with pursed lips, looking very happy. I walked past them. "Maya," he called out to me. Coming up to me with a serious expression, "I went to see Simon and learned about your background." I didn't want to listen and turned to leave. He grabbed me, "Though I can't fully understand, I know you've suffered greatly these years, more than I ever imagined. I won't force you to be with me. I just hope you'll give me a chance to stay by your side, to take care of you, to accompany you." I looked at him and thought of that bastard father I've never met. He ruined my mother's youth, destroyed my grandfather's life, and even caused my grandmother's death. I don't trust any man, no need. I pulled my arm away. The girl beside him suddenly stepped forward, grabbed my hand, and beamed with a smile that made her look like a delicate porcelain doll. "Sister-in-law, it's fine if you don't like my brother, but I like you. Let's hang out together from now on, okay?" I looked at the girl and only then noticed that she bore some resemblance to Tom in the eyes and brows. Tom introduced to me, "This is my twin sister, Lily." Lily was a chatterbox. Without waiting for me to respond, she grabbed my hand and pulled me away, saying, "Sis-in-law, I like you so much. Meeting you is fate. From now on, we're best friends." Every day, she would come to see me with Tom, and even managed to transfer to the same dorm room as me. She would tell me all sorts of bizarre stories, share tales of the places she and her brother had traveled to, recount funny incidents from her family, and even took me along to visit her grandparents. Perhaps it was because I had no friends growing up, but after spending some time with Lily, I began to like her. I listened to everything she said, especially when I heard that she and Tom had already visited over 20 countries. I started to yearn for other places. It felt as if I had returned to the happiness of living with my grandfather, with Lily by my side during my 4 years of university. My life became much more vibrant. On the winter break before graduation, I returned to my hometown to visit my grandpa, with Lily accompanying me. Tom shamelessly tagged along as well. The old bungalow had started to leak, the yard was overgrown with weeds, and even the big yellow dog I'd left with the neighbors seemed not to recognize me. It didn't bark when it saw me, standing in the yard. I pointed at the dilapidated doghouse and told Lily, "This is where I stayed on my first day at Grandpa's house." Looking back now, I don't feel it was bitter, but rather find it amusing. I wonder how I was so clever back then, advancing by retreating, forcing Grandpa to have no choice but to invite me in, thinking carefully, how sad Grandpa must have felt at that time. After all, I was the offspring of his enemy. He still swallowed all the bitterness, keeping it to himself. Lily held me tightly, crying with heartbreaking sorrow. Tom said nothing, turning away to pull the weeds in the yard. After clearing the weeds, I bought some wine, brought snacks, and went to Grandpa's grave. I knelt before the tombstone, burning paper offerings for my grandfather, saying, "Grandpa, I miss you. Have you missed me, Grandpa? I'm about to graduate. I've completed the task you gave me to study hard." I knelt in front of the grave for over an hour, chattering away, pouring out a year's worth of nonsense from my heart. It wasn't until my legs went numb that I stood up with Lily's support. When I got home, I found workers renovating the house. "What's going on here?" A middle-aged couple was directing the workers. Hearing the noise, the man helped the woman walk out, and they stopped in front of me. "Mom, Dad, why are you here too?" Lily ran over, grabbed the woman's arm, and affectionately leaned against her shoulder. The woman touched her face, then walked up to me and warmly took my hand. "You must be Maya. I'm Tom and Lily's mom. I heard these two rascals say they were coming to your hometown with you, so I tagged along. I wanted to see what your hometown looks like. Who would have thought the house would be leaking, so I called some workers from home to help. Hope I'm not disturbing you." I froze, looking down at the woman holding my hand, feeling an indescribable warmth. "Thank you, Auntie," I said. "Don't mention it. These two kids talk about you all the time." The man also nodded. "A home is where the house stands. Once the house is repaired, you can rest easy." I thanked them again, unsure of what else to say. Just as I was feeling awkward, Lily came up to me, took my arm, and said, "No need to be polite. My parents are your parents now. We're all family from here on out." Hearing this, Tom looked up and gave his sister a thumbs up. Tom's father, Tom's mother, gave her son an encouraging look. With the help of Tom's father and Tom's mother, the house in the hometown was repaired within 2 days. Looking at the tidy home, I smiled happily. On the day we left the hometown, I went to the cemetery once again to bid farewell to my grandfather. I reluctantly stroked the tombstone, promising to come back to visit Grandpa next year if I had the time. When I turned around, I saw Tom standing in front of me, holding a bouquet of roses. I froze, feeling somewhat at a loss. Suddenly, he knelt before my grandpa's tombstone. "Grandpa, I like Maya. I've liked her for 5 years. From the first moment I saw her, I knew she was different. She made me realize that happiness isn't a simple thing. I had been immersed in it all along, just never knew how to cherish it. She is resilient and brave, like a wild grass crawling through the mud, yet she never complains. Instead, she faces every challenge head-on with courage. I love her, but I know you hold the most important place in her heart. I also know she lacks a sense of security. So today, I want to ask you, in your presence, to bear witness. I hope Maya will give me a chance to accept me. I swear to love only Maya for the rest of my life, to treat her well, protect her, and respect her. If I ever break this vow, may I meet a terrible end." As I spoke the last few words, I stepped forward and covered Tom's mouth. His life isn't just about me, it also includes the parents and sister he loves. How could he make such a harsh vow for my sake? Tom grabbed my hand, placed it against his cheek, then gently brought it to his lips and kissed it. "Maya, give me a chance, okay?" I gaze at my grandfather's tombstone. A gust of wind blows by, lifting the burnt paper money beside the tombstone. I seem to hear my grandfather's voice, softly calling my name, saying I've grown up and should make my own decisions. I nod and give Tom a chance. He cheered and jumped up, scooping me into his arms and spinning me around. I wrapped my arms around his neck, laughing out loud. After the new year, we returned to school. Some of my classmates continued their studies for graduate school, while others started working and received some good offers. Tom asked me, "What are your plans? Whether you choose to continue studying or start working, I'll support you." I stood up, looked out the window at the vast world outside, and said, I want to become a teacher at a school for the deaf and mute. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment decision but a rational choice I made after volunteering for over 3 years. Okay, Tom was very supportive of me. When I mentioned I wanted to become a special education school teacher, my teachers and classmates were all shocked. They thought someone who worked so hard to get into a prestigious university shouldn't choose such an unpromising career. I told them, future prospects are the world's judgment, but what I want is just inner peace. My childhood was so miserable, and I don't want these children to repeat my mistakes, and being with them makes me very happy. Tom's father and mother were especially supportive of me, even going so far as to buy a house for Tom and me in J City, to my surprise. They only put my name on the property deed. I was somewhat overwhelmed by their kindness. Lily quietly told me, my parents were worried you might feel insecure, so they did this. From now on, the house is in your name. If my brother dares to wrong you, you can kick him out and leave him with nothing. Tom heard this and grabbed Lily by the back of her collar, ready to toss her out. Are you even my real sister? No, I'm my sister-in-law's real sister. You two are so close now. You should thank me. If it weren't for me, you wouldn't have such a wonderful sister-in-law. Tom retorted indignantly. Lily snorted and stomped on his foot. How can you be so shameless? You begged me to help you win her over. You should be thanking me. It's my cleverness that got you the girl. They argued endlessly and ended up fighting. I couldn't stop laughing as I watched this scene, eyes filled with envy. In the 3rd year of working, Tom proposed to me. Our wedding was quite simple. I had no relatives, and the only attendees at the wedding were my students. That day, after the host's enthusiastic speech, Tom and I exchanged rings. Just as the two of us were about to kiss, an uninvited guest arrived unannounced. She stormed into the wedding hall and, in front of everyone, pointed at me and cursed, "Heartless bastard, you've been hiding from me, haven't you? You're my daughter. How dare you not support me or give me money? Today, I'll let everyone see just how ungrateful you are." It had been years since I last heard someone curse me like that. The words, "damn thing," seemed to press a memory button, dredging up many unpleasant recollections. Looking at the unreasonable woman before me, though she stood at a distance, I knew she was my mother. My expression darkened. She listed my wrongdoings in front of the entire Tang family. Knowing she was my mother, my in-laws stood up to explain and tried to stop her. But my mother was never one to listen to reason. There was no stopping her. Her insults grew increasingly vicious. From cursing me to cursing my grandfather, I couldn't hold back anymore. Tom knew that my grandfather was my sore spot, so he grabbed my arm and said, "Maya, don't move. Let me handle this." He stepped down from the stage and walked up to her. "You keep claiming to be Maya's mother, but when she needed you the most, you abandoned her, got married yourself, and left her in the care of her grandfather." The banquet hall buzzed with murmurs and whispers. My mom didn't listen to Tom at all and continued to point at me, yelling angrily, calling me an ungrateful wretch, a bastard, a son of a bitch, saying that I was inherently bad and should never have been born, that I was just as heartless as my younger brother. At this moment, my heart turned ice cold. Ignoring Lily's attempts to stop me, I walked up to her and asked, "Are you done?" She stiffened her neck and said, "Give me $50,000, and then $4,000 every month after that, and I'll leave." I shifted my gaze from her to the security guard beside me and said, "Please, throw this lunatic out." Amid her cursing and shouting, my mother was thrown out. The wedding was successfully ruined by her, and people began to gossip about me. My in-laws were busy cleaning up the mess and explaining the situation. Lily was busy accompanying me and comforting me. Tom then stepped onto the stage, took the host's microphone, and shouted to all the relatives and friends, "Maya is my wife. What kind of person she is isn't for you to discuss. If anyone dares to gossip about her again, don't blame me, Tom, for turning my back on you." The room fell silent instantly. Tears blurred my vision. The feeling of being protected is truly wonderful. Back home, I leaned on Tom's shoulder as he comforted me, saying, "Maya, if the sky falls, I'll hold it up. Don't be afraid. I'll handle your mom's situation." I closed my eyes, savoring his care, and nodded. "Okay, no one likes to be strong. What we call strength is merely the helplessness of having to keep going." I'm fortunate to have met Tom and the Tang family. From now on, I won't need to be so strong anymore. I didn't ask Tom how he handled it. I don't want to hear about people or things that don't matter to me. I know Tom will protect me and take care of everything for me. Now, All I want is to live my life in peace and stability. Tranquility and peace are the greatest happiness. After hearing the story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.